The drama surrounding Naoya Inoue has never been about loud proclamations or manufactured chaos. It has always lived in the quiet certainty of a man who knows exactly who he is and what he is capable of once the bell rings. Long before the lights blaze and the crowd roars, Inoue's opponents often arrive with something to prove, convinced that madness, intimidation, or sheer violence will be enough to crack the calm exterior of the man known as the monster. They come snarling, posturing, speaking as if fear itself were a weapon. Yet time and again, those who attempt to step into that darkness discover a far more terrifying truth. Naoya Inoue does not flinch when chaos approaches. He absorbs it, studies it, and then dismantles it piece by piece. There is a certain type of fighter who believes intimidation is power. They stare too long, talk too much, and convince themselves that they're unhinged. Bravado makes them different, stronger, deadlier. Luis Pantera Neri was one of those men. A fiery Mexican southpaw with a history of explosive knockouts and controversy. Neri entered the Tokyo Dome in May 2024, carrying himself like a villain in a story already written. He spoke openly about ignoring the global hype surrounding Inoue, dismissing the belts, the accolades, and the reputation. He claimed to know his own capabilities, insisted he would show the world he belonged on the same level, and embraced the role of the dangerous psychopath, willing to walk straight into the fire. The setting alone elevated the moment to mythic proportions. The Tokyo Dome, sacred ground in Japanese combat sports, glowed under a sea of lights. For super bantamweight titles rested around Inoue's waist, not as decoration, but as scars earned through years of surgical destruction. He entered the ring not with rage or theatrics, but with that familiar, chilling composure. This was his domain. The crowd sensed it, though few could have predicted just how violently the narrative would twist in the opening minutes. From the opening bell, the tension crackled. Inoue advanced methodically, his eyes locked, his movements economical. Neri came forward too, refusing to give ground, throwing with ambition and intent. It felt combustible, like a single spark could set everything ablaze. And then, shockingly, it did. Early in the first round, Neri found an opening. Inoue, momentarily exposed by a dropped hand during an exchange, was caught clean. The monster went down. For a heartbeat, the entire boxing world froze. Naoya Inoue, the unstoppable force, floored on the canvas in his home country. The Tokyo Dome gasped as one. For Neri, it was validation incarnate. This was the moment he had envisioned, the proof that Inoue was human. That intimidation and raw violence could disrupt even the most composed champion. He pressed forward with renewed confidence, digging to the body, throwing with abandon. Believing the madness had worked. But monsters are not defined by never falling. They are defined by how they rise. Inoue stood up with eyes clear and posture steady. There was no panic, no anger, no rush to reclaim pride. Instead, there was adjustment. By the second round, the story had begun to change, and it changed with frightening speed. Inoue returned to his jab, recalibrated his distance, and began dissecting Neri's aggression with clinical precision. The crowd found its voice again, rallying behind their hero as he sliced through Neri's guard, exploiting every poor habit. Every overcommitment, where Neri fought with emotion, Inoue fought with intellect. He anticipated shots before they came, stepping back just enough to let punches skim air, then answering with counters that landed flush and heavy. Time seemed to slow for him, as it often does for the truly elite. His mind moved faster than his opponent's fists, and once that shift occurred, there was no turning back. The second round saw the momentum swing decisively. Inoue began landing combinations, sharp and punishing, his right hand finding its home again and again. Then came the knockdown. A perfectly timed counter sent Neri to the canvas, erasing the bravado that had defined his entrance. Trash talk turned to silence. The villain's confidence cracked, placed by the dawning realization that he had awakened something far worse than himself. As the rounds progressed, Inoue's dominance grew suffocating. By the third and fourth rounds, he was fully in rhythm, snapping punches with a sound so distinct it echoed through the arena. His jab became a spear, his hooks carved openings. and his footwork ensured Neri was always one step behind, always moving into danger. The technical gap widened with every exchange. Neri, once fearless, now hunted for a single miracle shot. Knowing he could not match the champion's speed, timing, or precision over sustained exchanges, Inoue showed no mercy, but he showed mastery. He softened Neri with body shots, forced him to reset repeatedly, and punished every mistake with ruthless efficiency. The pressure mounted until escape was no longer an option. By the fifth round, Neri was trapped in survival mode, absorbing punishment and struggling to maintain balance as Inoue's combinations battered his defenses. There is a moment in every great fight where inevitability settles in, where everyone watching understands that the end is coming, and all that remains is the manner of its arrival. That moment came as Inoue stalked forward, calm in the storm, eyes locked, hands ready. Another knockdown followed, born from a perfectly placed left hook that exploited a fleeting lapse in Neri's guard. The crowd erupted, sensing the conclusion drawing near. When the finish finally came, it was devastating in its simplicity. A short uppercut buckled Neri's knees, followed by a crushing right hand that sent him crumbling to the canvas in total surrender. The monster roared, not in celebration, but in affirmation. This was what happens when chaos meets control. Madness had challenged precision, and precision had annihilated it. The victory was decisive, but it was also symbolic. Once again, a man who believed himself different, unhinged, and immune to fear had discovered that Naoya Inoue was the greater demon. The belts remained where they belonged, and the Tokyo Dome bore witness to another chapter in a career defined by moments like these. Yet, this was not the end of the story. It was merely a continuation of a pattern that has followed Inoue throughout his rise. One by one, challengers arrive convinced they are the exception. One by one, they leave having tasted defeat for the first time, or the most brutal defeat of their lives. That truth was reaffirmed again when Inoue stepped into the ring against Marlon Akhmataliv, another elite threat carrying both skill and belief. This was no reckless brawler or manufactured villain. Akhmataliv was an Olympic bronze medalist, a seasoned counterpuncher, and a man who genuinely believed Inoue had avoided him for years out of fear. He dismissed the hype with quiet confidence, insisting he knew his own capabilities and intended to show the world. From the opening rounds, the fight unfolded with a different texture, but the same underlying theme. Inoue worked behind a probing jab, testing reactions, slipping punches, and placing shots with intention. Akhmataliv remained patient, waiting for mistakes that never came. As the rounds wore on, the gap became clearer. Inoue's speed and coordination separated him from his challenger, his punches landing cleaner, his movement denying space. When Akhmataliv finally tasted Inoue's power in the third round, the message was unmistakable. This was not a man fighting on reputation alone. This was a champion operating at another level. Even when Akhmataliv found brief success, Inoue answered immediately, reclaiming control and re-establishing the hierarchy with calm authority. What made the performance remarkable was not just the dominance, but the restraint. Inoue did not rush for a knockout. He picked spots, controlled distance, and dictated the rhythm as if sparring with a world-class opponent. When trapped briefly on the ropes, he responded with compact combinations to the body, flipping danger into opportunity in the blink of an eye. By the later rounds, frustration crept into Akhmataliv's movements. He chased, missed, and grew desperate, urged on by a corner, running out of answers. The narrative had shifted completely. What began as a mission to expose a supposedly fearful champion ended as a lesson in humility and futility. Inoue glided around the ring, peppering his opponent with sharp shots, denying him any real opening, reminding everyone watching that fear had never been part of his equation. Even in the final moments, when Akhmataliv managed to land a meaningful shot, it felt